about blood types. Blood cells are in the news, and they're really interesting, and there's so much more information that they help generate and provide for us.
After years of scientific research, scientists have finally unraveled the mystery behind type O blood in a groundbreaking discovery that is changing everything we know about human genetics. So what long-held secrets have been uncovered about type O blood? And how will this discovery impact the field of genetics and medicine as we know it? Join us to find out. The secret in blood. Many, many years before explorers sailed the seas and drew new maps of the world, a quiet and powerful force was already living inside people. It wasn't gold, land, or treasures that made someone valuable. It was something much deeper. It was their blood, and not just any blood, but type O blood, carrying one of the oldest secrets of humanity. Long before borders were created and new countries were named in the 15th century, millions of people in the Americas already shared something special. The type O blood in their veins connected them in ways no one could see, hinting at a history far older than any colonizer's map. Blood doesn't just carry oxygen and nutrients. It carries memories, silent ones, locked away in our cells, holding the stories of those who came before us. Type O blood is the most common blood type in the world, but in some parts of the Americas, it isn't just common, it's almost the only blood type you'll find. In certain native communities, the rate of type O blood reaches up to 100%. That kind of purity is extremely rare in nature, where things usually mix and change over time. What makes this even more amazing is how type O blood behaves. Unlike other blood types that mix, change, and adapt through the generations, type O stays steady. It's like a quiet, steady friend in a world full of noise and change. Type O doesn't like to mix, and it rarely mutates. It holds its form while everything else around it evolves. To understand why this is so unusual, it helps to know a little about blood types. There are 4 main types: A, B, AB, and O. The difference between them lies in tiny markers called antigens, found on the surface of red blood cells. Type A has A antigens, type B has B, AB has both, and type O has none at all. And it's this very absence that makes type O special. Because it lacks these antigens, type O blood is less likely to cause problems during transfusions. That's why it's called the universal donor. In emergencies, when there's no time to check a patient's blood type, doctors often reach for type O. It's safe, simple, and saves lives. But this special blood does more than help in hospitals. Scientists believe type O blood may have once helped ancient people survive in difficult environments. Some studies suggest that people with type O blood had stronger defenses against dangerous diseases like malaria. While malaria mostly affects people in Africa, the idea is that type O might have offered protection from other deadly infections in ancient times too. When researchers look at maps showing the spread of blood types around the world, they notice something strange. In North, Central, and South America, especially among indigenous groups, type O blood is everywhere. In some communities, over 90% of people have it. The global average is only about 62%. That big difference hints at a much deeper mystery. Why was this blood type everywhere? What reasons made it strong? Let's dive into it. The blood that helped us survive. Among these ancient people was a special kind of blood called type O. It quietly traveled with them wherever they went. The people themselves didn't know how important it would become, but this one tiny detail in their bodies would later shape entire populations. Today, scientists believe this blood type can tell us a beautiful story about how early humans moved, settled, and adapted to new, unfamiliar places. One popular theory takes us back to a place known as Beringia, a wide frozen land that once connected Siberia to Alaska during the Ice Age. It acted like a natural bridge, allowing small groups of people to cross from Asia into North America. If those early travelers mostly had type O blood and they lived in isolation for thousands of years, it would explain why type O blood became so common in the Americas. Being cut off from the rest of the world played a big role in this. Those first settlers didn't meet new groups or mix with other travelers. No new blood types arrived, and the type O blood they carried stayed strong and steady. Generation after generation, it remained the same, quietly growing in numbers. But it wasn't just loneliness or distance that helped type O survive. Some researchers believe this blood type gave people a small advantage in tough places. At high altitudes, where oxygen is thin, type O blood might have been better at carrying oxygen through the body. In sweltering jungles or icy plains, even a tiny advantage could mean the difference between life and death. Over time, small benefits like this can make a big difference in who survives and who doesn't. When we look at blood type patterns around the world today, it's like reading a map of ancient journeys. In Africa, the birthplace of humanity, type O is also very common. As people spread into Europe and Asia, other blood types like A and B appeared more often. Type A became common in Western Europe, and type B grew in Central and Eastern Asia. These shifts weren't random. They reflected how people changed their lifestyles, what they ate, and how they lived in new environments. When early humans reached the Americas, they carried their bloodlines with them. Type O wasn't left behind. It grew stronger. It moved with them from the snowy north to the green valleys of Central America and deep into the thick jungles of the Amazon. In each new land, it held on. As communities built homes and raised families, they stayed apart from outsiders. No new blood types arrived, and the one they brought with them, type O, remained untouched. Over time, harsh weather, dangerous diseases, and difficult living conditions may have made it easier for type O blood to survive. Maybe those with type A or B had more health risks or struggled more in those environments. Slowly, their numbers decreased while type O became even more common. Even today, when scientists study blood types in faraway places, they find similar stories of small communities with high rates of one blood type because of ancient migrations and isolation. But the Americas are truly special. Nowhere else on Earth has such a strong presence of type O blood spread across so many different landscapes, from frozen mountains to hot rainforests. It hints at something unusual in the story of the Americas. It's not just about blood. It's about how people adjusted, how they stayed strong through hardships, and how a small part of their biology quietly shaped the future of entire continents. Evidences residing in our blood. Back in the 1980s, a group of curious scientists in Arizona began a simple research project. They wanted to learn more about the daily lives and health of Native American communities. At first, they looked at many things, from diet to traditions. But one surprising discovery captured everyone's attention. When they tested blood samples, they noticed something unusual. An incredible 99% of the people they tested had type O blood. At first, it seemed like a strange result from just one place, but as more tests were done in other areas, across North America, then Central and South America, the same thing kept happening. Type O blood wasn't just common. In some places, it was nearly the only blood type anyone had. This was something scientists didn't expect. In most parts of the world, blood types like A, B, and O are usually more evenly spread out. So why was it so different in the Americas? This simple question led to a fascinating search for answers. Life in the ancient Americas was extremely difficult. Every day brought new challenges, from freezing winters to dry summers, hunger to illness. Survival wasn't easy. People needed every bit of strength and luck they could get. Some scientists believe that having type O blood might have quietly helped. You see, type O blood doesn't carry the A or B antigens found in other blood types. This may have given people with type O a small advantage against certain illnesses. In times of deadly disease outbreaks, those with type O blood might have been less likely to get seriously ill or might have recovered faster. And in a world where survival meant everything, even the smallest advantage mattered. As the generations passed, those who lived longer and stayed healthier were able to have children and pass on their type O blood. Slowly, more and more people carried it. This created a natural cycle, a feedback loop, where type O blood kept growing more common with each new generation. But this story isn't just about surviving hard times. It's also about staying connected. Even though Native American communities spread out over thousands of miles from cold Canada to sunny South America, they shared this invisible link in their blood. Long before anyone drew maps or built cities, type O blood tied them together like a quiet thread, reminding them that they came from the same place long ago. Modern science has now confirmed what the old blood tests hinted at. Using new DNA tools, researchers have traced family lines and migration routes with amazing accuracy. Their discoveries match the old blood type patterns, telling the same story through a new, clearer lens. Type O blood isn't just a medical fact. It's a living piece of history. Today, this blood type still matters. In hospitals, type O negative blood is known as the universal donor. It can be given to anyone in an emergency, no matter their blood type. When doctors don't have time to check a patient's blood group, they rely on type O negative to save lives. Type O positive, while not quite as universal, is still very valuable in many situations. Even while the type O is universal, it has its share of problems that come with it. Stay with us to find out. Challenges in a gift. Blood has always been one of the most precious resources in medicine. It saves lives in emergencies, during accidents, surgeries, and natural disasters. But not all blood is the same. Among all the blood types, one stands out for a very special reason: type O blood. More importantly, type O negative blood can be safely given to anyone, no matter their own blood type. That's why doctors call it the universal donor. In life or death situations, when there's no time to test a patient's blood, type O negative is what hospitals reach for first. Because of this, type O blood is always in high demand.
MD Anderson Cancer Center says they're in need of O-negative blood donations. That's the universal type that can be given to anyone. Cancer patients require more blood than others.
Blood banks and hospitals work hard to keep enough in supply, but even with careful planning, shortages still happen. Managing this need is a daily challenge for healthcare systems around the world. It's especially tough in places where blood donations are low, like in small or isolated communities. This challenge is even greater in native populations, where almost everyone shares type O blood. In some areas, it's the only blood type found. But even though it's so common among the people, these communities are often far from big cities and hospitals. They don't always have easy access to healthcare, and blood donations are harder to collect. So when someone there needs a transfusion in an emergency, the very blood type that fills their veins may not be ready for them at the hospital. But type O blood's story doesn't stop at hospital walls. Scientists have found that it might also offer other surprising benefits. Some research suggests people with type O blood could be less likely to suffer from heart disease. Others believe it affects how a person's body handles infections. Learning more about these connections could one day help doctors choose the best treatments based on a person's blood type, offering more personal and effective care. Type O blood isn't spread evenly around the world. In some places, it's rare, but in the Americas, especially among Native American groups, it's incredibly common. This raises important questions about fairness. Should a person's chance of surviving a crisis depend on where they live or what blood type they were born with? To solve this, experts encourage more blood donations, better storage methods, and international teamwork, so the right blood can always be there when it's needed. Science is also working on new ideas. Researchers are studying artificial blood, faster testing tools, and even ways to adjust genes to reduce blood type conflicts.
MD Anderson Cancer Center says they're in need of O-negative blood donations. That's the universal type that can be given to anyone. Cancer patients require more blood.
But for now, type O blood remains one of medicine's most trusted tools, a quiet hero in emergencies. There's something else beautiful about this story. For Native American communities living in places like the high mountains or remote forests, type O blood may have played a role in survival long ago. In thin, high-altitude air, having type O blood might have helped people deliver oxygen through their bodies more easily. Even a tiny advantage like this could mean everything in a dangerous world. Some studies suggest that type O blood might help resist certain diseases too. For example, while malaria wasn't a problem in the ancient Americas, in other parts of the world, people with type O blood have shown more protection against its severe effects. And there's even a theory that type O blood is better at handling high-protein, high-fat diets, like those eaten by early hunter-gatherers. In close-knit native communities, people with type O blood may have been especially valued. Since their blood could be given to anyone, they might have saved lives during births or accidents, earning respect and raising the chances of passing their blood type on to future generations. Of course, no single theory explains everything. The history of type O blood is likely shaped by many things: environment, diet, disease, and the ways people live together. But the patterns are clear enough to keep scientists searching for answers. The forgotten family. Modern science has given us a beautiful new way to look at our past. With just a small test, people can now discover where their ancestors came from and how their families moved and changed over thousands of years. But these discoveries don't just tell us about our grandparents or great-grandparents. They open doors to a world much older. A world where ancient humans walked the earth long before any history books were written. One of the sweetest and most surprising stories in this ancient world involves two forgotten groups, the Neanderthals and the Denisovans. For many years, people believed these early humans were simple, clumsy, and not very smart. They were often imagined as rough cave dwellers with no real skills or emotions. But modern science has slowly replaced that old picture with something much kinder, richer, and more interesting. The Denisovans, in particular, remain a gentle mystery. Their bones and teeth were first found in a quiet cave in Siberia. Since then, scientists have been carefully gathering clues, trying to learn who they were. Some experts believe Denisovans might have been a completely different species, while others think they were simply another group of early humans. What everyone agrees on is that Denisovans and Neanderthals had a lot in common, not just with each other, but with us too. Neanderthals, once thought of as simple creatures, have turned out to be surprisingly clever and thoughtful. Scientists have found that they made tools, built shelters, and maybe even created simple art. They lived in groups, cared for the sick and injured, and may have spoken to one another in ways we're only beginning to understand. They showed signs of kindness and creativity, proving that they weren't so different from us after all. Around 40,000 years ago, something changed. Modern humans, called Homo sapiens sapiens, started to spread across the world. Not long after, the Neanderthals and Denisovans began to disappear. Nobody knows exactly why. Some believe it was because of changing weather, new diseases, or struggles over food. Others think the groups mixed together through marriage and family, slowly becoming one. DNA has given us beautiful proof of this. Many people alive today carry tiny pieces of Neanderthal or Denisovan DNA, especially in parts of Asia and Europe. This means that a long time ago, these ancient groups and our ancestors didn't just live near each other, they built families together. The blood of these ancient people still quietly flows through us today. Even sweeter is what DNA has taught us about Neanderthal life. Far from being cold or cruel, they seem to have cared deeply for one another. Evidence shows they buried their loved ones and placed objects beside them, maybe as gifts or symbols of love. They shaped tools with care and made things that required thought and planning. These small acts whisper to us from the past, reminding us that kindness and creativity are old parts of being human. Science has helped us uncover these lost stories, but it's important to use this knowledge with heart. Many native and indigenous communities remind scientists to show respect, care, and fairness when studying ancient histories. These aren't just old bones or bits of DNA. They are the memories of real people whose stories deserve to be told gently. How has DNA helped the world? Let's find out. How DNA connects us to the past. In the present age, modern science has opened doors to ancient stories that were once lost to time. DNA testing has become a touching and personal way for people to discover their family origins, how their ancestors lived, and the paths they traveled, all through a simple sample of blood or saliva. Inside every person's blood and genes are quiet stories, older than written history. And for many, finding these links brings a deep and meaningful sense of connection. This has been especially important for indigenous American tribes. For countless years, these communities kept their histories alive through spoken stories, passing them from one generation to the next. While many of these precious tales have survived, others were doubted or forgotten because of colonization and the many hardships that followed. Today, with the help of advanced DNA testing, many indigenous families are finding ways to confirm their old stories and sometimes uncover entirely new ones. These discoveries are not just scientific results, they are deeply emotional, reminding people of who they are and where they come from. One beautiful example of this can be seen in the family of Sitting Bull, a respected and powerful Native American leader. Through modern genetic testing, his descendants were able to prove their connection to him. For them, it wasn't just about facts and numbers. It was a moment filled with personal pride and joy, and it showed how modern science could help protect important pieces of history and cultural identity. Certain genetic markers found only in Native American groups serve as a lasting link to the people who lived on these lands long before present-day borders were created. These traits also reveal how those communities stayed strong, moved through new lands, and built societies long before maps existed. For many people, exploring their family's genetic story isn't just a hobby. It's about reclaiming a history that was taken from them. Because of colonization, many indigenous people lost their languages, customs, and even their sense of identity. DNA testing has become a way to gather those missing pieces. It can help people reconnect with their native heritage, leading them on a personal journey to rediscover ancient languages, old traditions, and a sense of home in a community their ancestors once knew well. These discoveries can also have real, everyday effects. Proving native ancestry through DNA can sometimes open doors to special benefits, recognition, and resources designed for indigenous communities. These are not small or distant ideas. They can touch people's lives in meaningful ways, offering scholarships, health care, or programs meant to support indigenous families. A heartwarming example is Leo Lapointe, who believed his family was tied to Sitting Bull. When DNA testing confirmed this, it became more than just a fact. It was a moment of personal happiness and public acknowledgement. Still, as moving as these discoveries can be, they also raise important questions. The use of DNA testing brings up serious concerns about privacy, fairness, and control. For generations, indigenous communities have experienced outsiders taking their lands, their identities, and their history. Today, there's a growing worry that even their DNA could be taken without consent or used in ways that don't respect their wishes. Some people fear that big companies are turning something as precious as ancestry into a product to be sold. The growing market for DNA testing kits has led to important conversations about who benefits from these stories and who might be left out. Another important truth is that culture is much more than DNA. Being native isn't just about having certain genes. It's about living within a community, honoring traditions, speaking ancestral languages, and sharing stories passed down through the years. Relying only on a genetic test to claim one's heritage can be risky. It might turn something deeply meaningful into a line of text on a computer screen. While DNA testing can open the door, what truly matters is what happens next. Reconnecting with people, listening to their stories, and becoming part of a living, breathing culture. Crawford's blood. Scientists were amazed by the results of a recent DNA test. A team at the Cellular Research Institute carefully studied the family history of a man named Crawford, who lives in a quiet Montana town called Harb. What they found could change the way we understand the history of Native peoples in the Americas. Harb is a small town within the Blackfeet Indian Reservation, a huge area that covers over 1 million acres in the northwestern part of Montana. The Blackfeet Nation is one of the largest Native American tribes in the United States. It has a proud history and strong traditions that people still honor today. There are also Blackfeet communities in Canada, creating a region rich with old stories about strength, survival, and pride. Because of this, Crawford's DNA results became even more meaningful. For a long time, scientists believed that the very first people to arrive in the Americas came from Siberia. They were thought to have crossed a land bridge called Beringia many thousands of years ago during the Ice Age. This idea explained how early humans spread through North, Central, and South America. But Crawford's DNA told a different, more complicated story. When researchers looked closely at Crawford's DNA, they found patterns that didn't match what they expected. His bloodline showed ancient ties to places no one thought were connected before. This suggested there might have been other migration paths or unknown groups of people mixing with early Native Americans long before any written records existed. Crawford's genetic results raised new questions about when people arrived in the Americas, how they traveled, and how different cultures and families blended together. Crawford's family story isn't just important for him. It opens a window to a much bigger story. His DNA connects him to the long, difficult, and incredible journey of human migration. It also shines a light on the lasting spirit of the Blackfeet Nation. Even after facing many years of change and hardship, the Blackfeet people have protected their traditions, their stories, and their deep sense of identity. Another fascinating part of this story involves the mystery of type O blood among Native American groups. Today, type O blood is common, but for a long time its origins puzzled scientists. Ancient tribal legends spoke of a fair-skinned stranger with blue eyes who appeared long ago. Some believed he was a lost soul, while others thought he came from another world. According to these old stories, he was the one who brought type O blood into their people. What's the truth behind the type O blood? Stay tuned. The hidden story in our blood. For a long time, the story of how people moved around the world has mostly focused on famous European explorers. Names like Columbus, Magellan, and Cook fill the pages of history books. But long before these well-known journeys, brave travelers crossed huge oceans and left their mark on human history, even though many of their stories were forgotten. Thanks to new DNA research, a beautiful and surprising chapter of this ancient story has come to light, one that reveals a hidden connection between Native Americans and Polynesians. Around 800 years ago, these two groups met in a way that would amaze people today. They crossed dangerous, endless stretches of ocean with no modern ships, no maps, and no fancy tools to guide them. Yet somehow they found each other. And that meeting left a lasting trace in the blood of their children and grandchildren. When scientists studied the DNA of people living on many Polynesian islands, they discovered something unexpected: pieces of Native American DNA hidden within their genes. This wasn't by chance, and it didn't come from later European voyages or recent contact. The evidence pointed to one special meeting long ago, when people from the Americas and Polynesia crossed paths, shared stories, and started families together. For many years, some people believe this connection might have happened. Clues came from old discoveries like sweet potatoes and bottle gourds found in ancient Polynesian sites, plants that originally came from the Americas and shouldn't have been there before Columbus's time. The idea that someone must have carried those plants across the ocean made people wonder about long-forgotten voyages. Early genetic studies weren't clear, but with new technology and careful research, stronger proof appeared. Scientists used computer models and DNA tracking to trace those Native American genes back to what is now Colombia. It showed just how amazing ancient people truly were, traveling far, connecting with others, and leaving stories behind in their blood. It adds a beautiful new piece to the story of human history, reminding us how people have always been explorers, traders, and storytellers. At the same time, another mystery was being solved. In 2025, scientists made big progress in understanding type O blood, the most common blood type in the world. Through careful research, they found new changes in the genes linked to type O blood. These discoveries helped explain why this blood type is so unique, how it affects the immune system, why it helps protect against some diseases, and why it works so well in blood transfusions. But the importance of this discovery isn't just about the past. It opens doors for better, safer healthcare today. By understanding more about the small details that make type O blood different, doctors can improve blood transfusions and better predict how people with this blood type respond to illnesses. Someday, this knowledge might lead to special treatments made just for certain blood types, blending ancient wisdom with modern medicine. What do you think about this discovery? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, like, share, and subscribe to this channel for more celebrity gist. Before you go, watch the other videos on your screen.